Alrighty, welcome into the Gary Ayd Show, day after Christmas here on the Cave, cavetalkradio.com.
Happy Boxing Day, everyone.
Boxing Day, yes. I am happy to be back. It's great to have you aboard. Gary Ayd, Rich Anselmo, and, of course, the Cave Talk Radio app. If you haven't done so, go to the App Store or Google Play, download it. We have over 200 downloads so far. Really cool stuff. Do that. It's the best and easiest way to tune in to our show and all the other great shows. A lot of you don't know this, but we have some other shows on this platform. Some really good ones. Right after us is Rick Tittle. If you're into more of the Hollywood sort of entertainment broad scene, it's very much a variety show in that respect. You'll get some sports, a lot of comedy interviews as well. Then after that, of course, we have Wrestling Observer Live, which is awesome if you're a big wrestling geek. I know there's a lot of people that love it. And then later tonight, you have my personal favorite, Scott Farrell, who is just a trip. He's on from 4 to 6. So,
he's a blast.
Oh, he's the best. Absolutely my favorite show on this network. So definitely take a listen to him, 4 to 6 on the Cave. Great to have you aboard. So obviously yesterday was Christmas, which means it was NBA Day. There were 5 games.
Yeah.
And I have to start with one of them. I got to start with my Lakers. We were texting during this game. And it's such a shame the Lakers roster is so incompetent, because I cannot believe, and I should be able to, because he's like not human, but I just can't believe how good LeBron still is. I'm watching this game, and I texted you. I said, if I didn't know any better and someone told me this was a 27-year-old in his 6th year, I would have been like, oh, yeah, he's going to be pretty good. The guy's 38 in like 5 days, not even. And he's like in his 20th year. He's basically by himself. I mean, that's the thing about what made last night so crazy. They lost. They got killed in the third quarter. We'll get into breakdown of the game in a second. But like LeBron comes out, he's getting double teamed out of the jump, because why wouldn't you? I mean, who else scares you?
Players in that game were
they were getting killed. Right. But I mean, Luka's 23. This guy's 38 in year 20. And the defense that they play on him is no different than Luka at 23 or Giannis at 29 or whatever Giannis is. This guy's 38 being treated like a 27-year-old in their prime because he's playing like it. It's insane. And he's still killing people. And with no help at all. None. I mean, Luka got serious help in the second half, especially that third quarter. LeBron got nothing.
Hardaway Jr. woke up.
He went crazy.
Wood had a great game.
Wood was great, running to the rim, playing in transition. Bullock hit a bunch of open threes.
The power of the hair.
That's it, man. It's all the hair. It's got to be.
Or whatever that is.
What? Yeah, I mean, don't be jealous.
Believe me, I'm fine. After looking at that.
You got a much lower barber bill, I'm sure.
Yes, and I'm perfectly fine the way I am after seeing that thing, whatever that was. Oh my God!
Oh man. But yeah.
And another interesting note to the LeBron history book. He is now the youngest and the oldest player to score 30 points in a Christmas Day game.
Yeah, he's something else. I heard he's played in like 12 or 15 of these, or some crazy 17 of these, something ridiculous.
He broke Kobe's record.
Yeah.
Most Christmas games. R.I.P. Mr. Bryant.
Yes. Terrible. Well, one thing that I'm glad you brought that up. One other thing I wanted to talk about. I was telling this to a buddy of mine, our friend Jack George. He was over yesterday for a little while. We were watching some of this game, and the thing I was telling him is, like, really, in a world where it's purely business, in a world where other than playing for a championship, nothing really excites veteran players in pro sports, it seems, a lot of times. Because, look, you play a million games, you've played against these people for your whole life, a lot of them. Like, I get it. It's a business. But there's something about being invited to play on Christmas that is still meaningful and attractive to these guys. You heard Kevin Durant in the days leading up to yesterday's games lamenting and taking the blame for the fact that the Nets weren't on Christmas because of his drama and everything else. And he says, that's on me. We should be playing here today. And,
they should have been.
For him to volunteer that tells you that this really means something. When you hear the guys interviewed during halftime, maybe the only time during the year where on-court interviews with sideline reporters glean anything useful is Christmas, because when they ask about playing on Christmas, to a man, even guys that have done it a million times, they speak of it in glowing and almost reverent terms. Like it means a lot to these guys to get these games. I mean, these are the showcases of the showcases. If you're in this game, it means the league, is putting you front and center. It means a lot.
It does. It does. And almost every team every team in this technically is relevant.
Yes. Yep.
Only one didn't have a relevant record.
Right. That's the Lakers.
But they're still relevant.
But they're the Lakers, so they're relevant.
Yeah. Right.
That's just how it is.
You had made a comment on Friday, and I seconded it, that hopefully the Knicks did not embarrass themselves. They did anything but.
They sure played great.
They did as much as they could against a team who had a determined player. And again, Embiid loves playing on Christmas as well. And Harden had one of his better games.
Yep. Despite the rumors that he might be heading out after the year, which broke during the weekend with Adrian Wojnarowski tweeting it, then it made its way around the internet. I don't see why he would go back to Houston with the shape they're in right now. I mean, I get that they have a couple of young players, but he's not at that stage of his career, I don't think. But in any event,
if you want to go back home, wait a couple of years.
Yep, I think so.
Want to go back to Houston? Wait 2 more years.
Yep, I think so.
Give yourself an honest chance to get a ring here.
Yep, I agree. But no, that was a great game, as we expected it to be. We said on Friday that we thought that might be the best or one of the most competitive games of the night, and it absolutely was. That was a fantastic basketball game, that Knicks and Sixers game.
Yeah. They saved the most competitive game of the night for last, though.
Well, Jokic went crazy. I know that. That game was way past my bedtime.
Overtime was needed.
2 a.m.
And gotten. And Jokic set a Christmas Day record as well. The most points, 41, in a Christmas Day triple-double. He ended up with 41, 15, and 15. And, oh, my God, some of the passes were just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of great performances. I mean, Jason Tatum played out of his mind.
Yeah, he did. That was the best game he's played all year.
Yeah, he was incredible. Giannis fought his shot a little bit, but the Bucks gave him a run anyway. We were this close to winning a 3-legged parlay, Jack and I, that I actually selected for him on his DraftKings account. And unfortunately, Giannis's shooting struggles cost us that. Our 3 legs were Giannis 32.5 over that, which is the one we failed on. Tatum over 26, which I knew was a no-brainer. And then the over on the game, which I also figured was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And that those last 2 happened easily. Giannis, had he shot a little bit better, would have gotten there anyway, but he didn't. So
he fought his shot all
day.
Yeah,
he did.
And it wasn't dropping.
Yep. But
and man, does Robert Williams III make a difference on that defense?
He sure does. And the shooting of Horford really helps a lot too.
The fact that Horford doesn't have to play 36 minutes now with Williams there helps.
Makes a big difference
at his age. And I'm going to shout out another young big man. It wasn't the 30-point game he had the other night, but man, James Wiseman impressed me even more yesterday.
Upset of the night, yeah. Golden State.
He did not score a lot.
Yep.
But he was all over the place defensively. He was reading plays. He was deflecting balls. He got up and down the floor. Like I said, even more than the 30-point game, that game was another step to convince me this guy can be an NBA player.
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
and I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, no, and I mean, Jordan Poole was sensational. I mean, there was just so much good basketball being played yesterday.
Oh yeah, and through no fault of Ja's, did the
Ja was a monster. He almost had the maybe the greatest in-game dunk of all time.
Yeah. A couple of those were saved for Aaron Gordon in the late game last night. He had 8 in-game dunks, and 3 of them were of the absolutely spectacular dunk contest variety.
Yeah, Aaron Gordon still is one of the most athletic and bouncy players in the whole league.
Blocking shots, rebounding, all over the court.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Larry Nance Sr. Very similar, like really athletic, good player, not a superstar, but a good player. Could be a really good player on a really good team. And just, I mean, you talk about someone that can take your soul with one dunk. I mean, this guy can absolutely yank it on anybody at any time.
He did it like 8 times last night.
Oh, he's a monster.
And 3 of them were soul-taking dunks. The one over Landry Shamet. Oh my God, I thought he was going to leap over him to make the dunk. And it could have been an offensive foul had Shamet held his ground, but I'm not exactly going to blame him because he did move a little bit and got landed on anyway. But
yeah.
What a spectacular play. That was just a great game.
There's a lot of great basketball yesterday. The Knicks are a good team.
They are. They really are.
They're a good team.
They work defensively.
They do. Yep.
They get up and down the floor. Randall balled out.
Yeah, Randall's a beast.
He worried me after hitting those first 2 threes. I said, oh, man, now he's going to be chucking them up all night. But he actually got back inside as well, and he played one of his better games, I thought.
Yeah, he was very good. Brunson is steady and consistent for that team.
He had a very good game.
That's a competitive team with a lot of tenacity. Grimes makes a big difference on that team.
He is outstanding defensively.
He is. He really is.
And I would have put him on Harden, and I would have let Brunson take Milton. I really would have.
Yeah. Harden gave him the business last night.
Oh, man.
He definitely gave him the business.
How do you move at 3/4 speed all the time?
Mm-hmm.
And fake people to the point where you get that open?
I know, it's incredible. He's a magician with the basketball. There's no question about that.
He looks like he's moving in slow motion compared to everyone else, but he always gets to where he wants to go.
Yep. Yeah, there's certain players that play that way. They just have a way of getting to their spots regardless. And it's a fun skill to watch. Now, Harden's style of play has traditionally driven me to drink. But I can appreciate the things he's good at. But yeah, his isolation style in Houston was maddening. His style of play here in Philadelphia is much more aesthetically pleasing to me.
Well, because he's not the number 1 option.
Right. Well, that's just it.
And he knows it.
Right. Yeah, and Embiid is the number 1 option, and oh, what an option he is.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think he might make the team.
Yeah. It's like, if I had that guy, I'd want him to have the ball a lot too. Yeah. What did he finish with yesterday? Like 30 something?
33, and geez, Harden had something in 14 assists or
an
insane.
I mean,
insane number.
He's leading the NBA in scoring, Joel Embiid.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, when was the last time the center did that?
He's averaging 33 a game. He had 35 last night, which is basically a slightly above average night.
Right, it's just his normal night.
Harden
basically
had 29 and 13 assists.
Mm-hmm.
Can I talk about Tobias Harris for a couple of minutes?
Absolutely.
8 points, 6 rebounds in 37 minutes. It's his second go around, albeit the first one was very brief with the Sixers head coach.
Your boy.
How can you have been a coach this long and not figured out how to use a player that has a good deal of talent? How? Okay, he's a third option. But look at Chris Bosh and Kevin Love. We're amazing third options. Pick one, Aaron Gordon or Michael Porter Jr. as a third option in Denver. Third options can be used properly if you have any clue. And unfortunately, this guy does not.
No, I mean,
I don't want to keep beating this dead horse, but they're wasting Tobias Rivers and
Tobias Harris, you mean?
Tobias Harris.
Tobias Rivers.
And oh God, Tobias would kill someone if he heard that. Then kill me.
Yeah, it
Tom
is a
Thibodeau
shame.
loves him and was talking about him with glowing comments before the game. And this was something I was going to put in news you can use, but I will and look at it a little further. But the Knicks want him.
He would fit the Knicks beautifully.
Yeah, he would, and he would probably be used properly.
Yeah,
because the coach that taught this coach in Philly, even though he was in Boston, even though he was the assistant, knows a hell of a lot more.
Well, yeah, Tom Thibodeau is a great coach. I mean, he's one of the absolute best in the NBA. And the thing about him, I think Thibodeau's greatest attribute is, and he's learned this through experience. It wasn't always the case, but I think his greatest attribute now, he still has his fastball. He still drives people to the extreme.
Oh, yeah.
But he has everyone's respect and no one's tuning him out. That's a hard line to walk, especially in the modern world. I mean, it's an impressive thing to achieve as a coach.
And his year in Minnesota, trying to play the same defense he did in Boston, and I got on him a lot about it.
I remember that.
Because it doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And he adapted.
Yep.
And showed why he is such a good coach.
Yep.
And his defense just gets better and better and better.
Yep.
And despite what happened yesterday, no defense in the world was going to.
Yeah, I mean,
stop Embiid when he's on a mission.
Joel Embiid, I have to tell you, is such a unique player in the current world. I mean, you're talking about a guy who is about 300 pounds, almost like 280 or so, at 7 feet. And he's just so skilled. But he's also, the thing I like about him, he doesn't forget that he's 7 foot 280 either. Like a lot of these guys forget that they're like Karl Anthony Towns, I think thinks he's 6'4" and 200 pounds. I'm pretty sure. Joel Embiid knows he can manhandle anybody. And but he doesn't do that exclusively because he has so many attributes. But when he needs a basket, he knows where to get it. And I love that about him.
And for a guy his size, like you said, he has Olajuwon type footwork.
He does.
His footwork is the elite of the elite.
No question. No question. And he's a great passer. I mean, he's averaging almost 5 assists a game from the center position, which is hard enough by itself. Then you factor in just the amount of times Harden handles the ball. To get that many assists is hard for anybody when you're playing with someone like Harden, who just has the ball in his hand a lot. Now more as a facilitator, like we were just saying a little while ago, he's not looking to score the way he used to, but no, it's amazing. I mean, Philly, in spite of their coaching, might very well pose a challenge to a lot of teams. I mean, because Embiid is just such a singular monstrosity. I mean, like, I don't care. Like, even a team like Boston, as good as they are, beating Embiid 4 times in the span of 2 weeks is not going to be an easy thing. I mean, the guy's just such a monster. I think
he said that last year too, and they beat Giannis 4 times.
Right. Well, I think Boston's the best team in the conference, and I think they would. But I do think that it's going to be a challenge. I don't think, even though I think Boston is appreciably better than Philly, I think Embiid is so good and so dominant that he's going to make this closer than it should be.
You
I
can't
guess what I'm
count
saying.
him out.
Yeah,
at
he's just
all.
such a beast.
He is.
So,
He absolutely is.
all
What
right.
a day, though.
Oh,
And now Jokic is saying, good passer.
watch
Hold
this.
my triple-double.
Yes.
He is averaging almost a triple-double this year.
Yeah, he's just a different type of player. I mean, he's a combination of like, I don't even know what he is. The guy's just so unique. I mean, his passing,
He is unique.
he's got a combination of like Dirk Nowitzki and Larry Bird going on.
And I get really upset when I hear people say he can't win the MVP 3 years in a row. Tell me why not.
I mean, if he deserves it, he deserves it. What do you want? I mean,
they're the best team in the conference,
yep.
And he's gone 16 games without Jamal Murray.
Without what?
Or without
without Murray?
Murray, yeah. Yeah, I thought I had his name right.
Yeah.
That says a lot for his game. Of course, yesterday, I mean, how many people look like they could be league MVPs? Jokic, obviously. Morant. Doncic. Embiid. Jason Tatum. LeBron.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's and almost all them guys are under 30. Which when I hear people say, oh, when LeBron and Durant go and Curry leaves and this league's gonna be this league is gonna be just
fine. We're good. I mean, you got so many great guys, you know, Jokic, Embiid, and then you got the young guys, I mean, Doncic, of course, John Morant. I mean, Jason Tatum is what, 25 or something, 26. Yeah, we're just fine. And you know, that was one of the things that when I was, I guess about 10 years ago, I started thinking about this, and I'll tell you what it is on the other side of the break. And when I knew that I was never going to run out of things to talk about and love about the NBA, I'll tell you a little personal story on the other side of the break. That's coming up next. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. That's 800-741-9557. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. That's 800-826-5884.
Alrighty. So, yeah, about 10 years ago, I remember thinking to myself, the generation of player that I was watching during my formative and, quote unquote, prime years, my teens and 20s, began to age out. You know, the Kobe's, the Dirk Nowitzki's, the Kevin Garnett's, the Shaquille O'Neal's, guys like that, Tim Duncan. And I remember at the time thinking to myself, Here is a period in my life where I'm going to know for sure a lot of people fade away as sports fans and become sort of the get off my lawn types at about the age of 30 or 35 as the people that they kind of came into the sports world, knowing and not having great memories or any memories of generations prior. Once that generation of player fades out, a lot of people never find another group of players that from a younger generation that they get excited about, and they become like basically they become Shaquille O'Neal. And that I didn't know, and I think that's an organic process. Some people it happens to, some people it doesn't. And so one of the guys that was crucial to me understanding that I was not going to be that type was Russell Westbrook. In the years after Kobe, the immediate years after his retirement, what Westbrook did with triple doubles and without Kevin Durant was nothing short of unprecedented and historic to me, and just I gawked at his abilities every night. And I used to get into big time social media tiffs with people who say, "Oh, he pads his stats. Teams let him get rebounds. His players let him get rebounds." Oh, get out of here. The guy is a monster. Stop it. He's 6'3", plays like he's 6'9", and he's the meanest, most energetic player I've ever seen in my life. This guy would box out and foul his own mother for a rebound. This guy's a savage. And he was such a big, and you know I'm right. That's why you're laughing. He wouldn't even think about it.
Oh, absolutely.
And he was a big reason why in the years post my, teenage heroes, I was like, you know what? I'm still all about this game. Because there were a lot of guys from those years that I don't like. I've never been a fan of Harden, Curry, or Lillard. I don't like that style of play at all. But there were still a lot of guys that I loved. I really liked Embiid. I loved Westbrook. I've always liked LeBron. And I was like, and then I started seeing younger guys still beyond that. John Morant, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum. And I was like, you know what? I'm a basketball fan for life. And it's awesome because
oh yeah.
I was concerned about that because it was so important to my life to that point, and I didn't want to lose it, but you also can't fake that. And,
No.
it has to be real. And, I, for real, love the young players in this league right now. I mean, there's so many that are just amazing.
As do I. And I have a lot more miles on to have been the
Yes.
curmudgeon you're talking
Yes.
about. And I feel I am not.
No, you're not. And it's great.
Love so many of the current players. I think this game just gets better and better. I will say about Westbrook, athletically, he's one of the most amazing players I've seen. The triple-double years hid a lot of the flaws in his game.
Yeah, he's not a perfect player, but you know what?
But
you don't have to
I'll
be a perfect player.
That's box office.
Well, that's just what I was going to say. You don't have to be a perfect player to be an important player and a fun player to watch. I mean,
right.
Someone like George Gervin was by far not a perfect player. He was very much Carmelo Anthony in a lot of ways, very much a one-dimensional offensive player, but the guy was awesome. Some guys are just fun to watch, even if you can't maybe win with them as at a high level, but like you'll make the playoffs because of their talent and scoring. But some guys are just
had so many different ways to score.
Oh, they're just fun. I mean, and that's what it's about at the end of the day. I mean,
I would have loved to have seen him fully in the 3-point
era.
Oh. But I say the same thing about Bob McAdoo all the time. He averaged 34 and a half a game.
Yep.
In his best year, it could have been 36.
Yep. Maybe 40.
Or actually more. It probably could have been about 37 and a half, 38.
Yep.
Because of the number of deep shots he hit that only counted as 2 points.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. There's so many guys who are just like, another guy that I don't know that you can ever win with as a number one option, but I absolutely love watching is De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is a wizard. He's so fast.
He should not be a number one.
No,
option. He should be facilitating to a number one option.
Yes, agreed.
And I like that team. I like Sabonis a lot.
Yes. You know, it's there's just so many.
Murray's a great rookie. And look at the rookie crop too. Banchero, Murray. I mean, we've had a few players really step up this year, young players.
Yep. Halliburton is quickly emerging as a guy who's, you know, must watch television.
And speaking of young players, I'm glad you stayed with the NBA. I was going to ask you if we could, because I did want to talk about this. Stephen A. Smith in halftime of one of the games made a great point. The Warriors got 6 technicals in their game against Memphis. And this game was very much, this has very much become a rivalry.
Yes. These two teams do not like each other.
And Klay Thompson said in the interview, and he got a T, which you don't see often. And it was taunting. I mean, he stood right over Brooks and just started yelling at him. And even he said, they asked him about the rivalry, and he goes, well, of course it's a rivalry. And they asked him why. And he said, because they're damn good. You know, he's not going to have a rivalry with Orlando.
Right. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about,
they're champions.
Detroit. Right.
And for some reason at home, they still play like champions. And they got drilled the last time they played Memphis, and they needed a statement game, and they got it. But Stephen A. Smith brought up a great point. Jonathan Kuminga, a very good young player, who impresses me a lot more this year, obviously, with a full year in the league, had made some great plays yesterday, and he made a play where he knew he made a bad play and should have done something better, and he was mad at himself, and he cursed himself out, and the ref, not right near him, teed him up. And Stephen A. said, this is getting ridiculous with the technicals. And there were some in every game. But 6 on this team, and the Grizzlies had a few themselves.
Well, the Warriors are a long-standing whiny bunch. They really are.
None of them were whiny technicals.
No, what I'm saying is sometimes your reputation precedes you. I mean, that's the problem with being whiny and being confrontational with the officials is.
Yeah, but the people that got him, Thompson, Kuminga, I mean, guys that don't have a rep for doing that.
Right. Yeah, no, it's one brush colors the whole group sometimes with this. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it just is.
I think it's wrong.
It's a factor of human psychology. I don't blame the refs in the least for having zero patience with this team.
But yeah, but it happened in a lot more than it normally does, and it didn't just happen to them.
Yeah, maybe they're just losing patience in general. I mean,
Stephen A. Smith brought up a couple other instances, and he said the refs are too damn sensitive.
Players cause a lot of that sensitivity. I don't have a problem with it.
I understand because of what they go through. But the one on Kuminga where he just, muttered under his own breath, he was mad at himself. What might have been the most stupid one I've seen. He said nothing to an official. And I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. In fact, as did a lot of people I talked to.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing that really marred a great night for me.
Yeah, no, I don't care about officials at all. Makes no difference to me. I understand that job imminently. I did it for a lot of years, and I don't blame them for being trigger happy with these guys. I really don't.
Well, you know something? People don't pay to see them.
That I understand that, but they're not in that moment going to think that. They're gonna react to what they're dealing with in that moment. It's a heat of the moment type of thing.
Best officials to me are ones I don't notice.
Well, that's why all the officials are good to me, because I never notice officials.
I like it a lot, but you're the only person I know who feels
I don't ever care about officials. Players miss shots and refs miss calls. And that's
You're
all
the
there is.
only person I know that feels that way.
Hey, sometimes the best ideas come from the smallest minorities.
Me personally, I always care if a ref decides the game.
I don't think there's ever been a game decided by a ref, because any game that people say was decided by a ref could have been decided by 50 other plays in that same game.
Yeah, but I don't want them making the last crucial call and have it be incorrect. You know, like
yeah.
the NFL does constantly, and you get those apologies.
I don't
every other
even
week.
see that as any different than a player deciding a game. Like there's going to be
Players
something.
are there to decide games.
Officials are part of the
Refs
games too. They are. And there's going to be something that decides every game. So it doesn't really matter to me what that is. I'm concerned about having drama and storylines and things to talk about. What decides it and who is immaterial to me. Really is.
See, and I will always bring it up when I see it.
Yeah, I don't care one little bit about refs.
Well, that's a difference between us.
They make no difference to me.
And they make all the difference to me.
A game decided by an official is just as good as a game decided by a player to me, as long as there's drama and intrigue. It's the same difference to me.
Not to me. I don't want them deciding anything.
Yeah.
I want them to stay off my screen. I don't want to see them.
Well, the problem is that we accentuate it because everyone comes on and talks about it every single damn day. And we do all these replays in super slow motion, and people get the idea that that's how it's seen, when in actuality, it's seen at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you have to make an instantaneous call. Like that's.
Yeah, but see, I'm not complaining about that.
That's like, not the same thing.
No.
So I mean,
and that I agree with. I think replay has made that's a two-edged sword. Replay has righted some wrongs, but it also brings out things that the human eye can't possibly see.
Right.
In real life frames per second, compared to what a camera can slow something down to.
Well, and then what's gonna happen is we're gonna get automated officiating more and more, and it's gonna become less and less of a argument of Scott Foster, and more an argument of who programs that and what's the code like, and is it faulty machine. We're gonna have the same complaining and whining about officials, but instead we're gonna be whining about robots, which will be
Funny
completely
thing is,
unprovable.
Scott Foster was one of the guys who over-teed yesterday.
Yeah, well, he's always been trigger happy, but
Yeah,
I don't blame him at all. But I ultimately think that we're gonna have the same whininess about officiating, except we're gonna whine about robots in the future, which are even harder to do anything about because there's only so many people in the world that program them. So
I don't see how that can happen. And hopefully it does not in my life.
Well, the more we complain about officials and accentuate them as these heathens, the more likely that is to happen, because that will be pitched as the solution. And then we're going to complain about those refs too. Yeah, but that's how it's going to go. I mean, we're already seeing it in baseball. And it's only going to accentuate and get worse. They're going to have cameras at the scorer's table and cameras maybe above the backboards or something like that. Maybe called automated from New York. Like that's going to happen. And then we're going to complain about that too. See,
baseball, I see it happening.
If people,
I have a feeling that in 10 years, balls and strikes are going to be automated.
No, I don't think it's going to take that long. I agree. And it's my opinion. It's because of people coming on talk radio complaining about it incessantly that has caused that. And I
don't think that's the only reason.
They're going to complain about it incessantly into the future with the robots too, except now people are going to be out of jobs. People complaining ruins everything. That's how we get crap, is people complaining about stuff that they don't need to complain about.
It's also a talking point for me. So,
I mean,
I'm not going to lose it, but
yeah, that's how it's that's what's going to happen. I guarantee that in my lifetime, we'll have automated refereeing more or less in every sport. There'll be one official in New York per game doing like the replay stuff. And maybe like one person at the field to make sure the cameras work. And that's going to be it. That's what's going to happen. So
you're never going to totally replace the human element. You can't.
They're going to try. The more people talk about it, the more it's going to become automated.
People have been talking about it for years.
Yeah, but the technology to automate it hasn't been available to the extent it is for all that time.
It's not available now.
It's pretty close, though. I mean, that's why they have robo-umps already in minor league baseball. Those didn't exist even 5 years ago. So as robotics become more of a thing, that's going to become more of a piece to this, I believe.
So what happens? A player doesn't like a call. Next time he comes up to bat, he turns to the robo up with a glass of water and throws it.
That's where we're going. I think so. That's right. Right.
What's the best way to defeat a robot?
That's water. It. Let's throw the water on them.
They can't work if their circuits are wet.
That's right. Get them.
So then they would have to go back to human umpiring.
There we go.
Once everybody learned the water secret, the umps had the robo umps would have no chance.
That's right. Oh man. Yeah, so there's a lot of great stuff this week. I mean, there's just so many great games. There was a bunch of NFL games too. I couldn't believe two things this week in football that were interesting to me. One is Detroit losing to Carolina. I'm so mad. I've been steadfast in my rule to never pick the Lions, even in the midst of all of these wins they've had in the last 2 months. And I've never once picked them. I picked them in this game because how could they lose to Carolina? Oh, this is why you have to follow your own rules. Not only did they lose, they got killed by one of the most hapless teams in the entire NFL.
They're not that hapless anymore.
Carolina's still pretty crappy.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, Darnold has played very well.
Yeah, he's looked pretty good.
And I'm thinking about that and like, wow, the Jets could have used him.
It's true.
Because now they're going to have to find another quarterback. Because as all the reports are, they're signing off on.
Oh yeah, that's it. Zach Wilson's done.
On Zach Wilson, yeah.
I posted something on the page over the weekend. I remember talking about it on Friday when we brought this up. I mentioned kind of tongue in cheek Jamarcus Russell as a comparison, and I didn't realize how statistically close they actually are. So look at this. So I come across this post on Facebook that I ended up sharing. This is nuts. So we're going to pull this up real quick. We're just going to read down these numbers because I was like, wow, that's exactly what I was saying without even realizing how accurate I was. So through 22 career starts, Jamarcus Russell was 7-15. Wilson is 8-14. Russell had a passer rating of 70.8. Wilson's is 70.9. Russell had 16 touchdown passes. Wilson has 15. Wilson's yards per attempt are 6.44. Russell's was 6.34. Bad news. Bad news for the Jets. Worst news for Zach Wilson. Rest in peace, Zach Wilson's NFL career.
What were their records? Do you have?
Yeah. That's what I was just saying. 7-15 for Russell and 8-14 for Wilson.
Okay, right. Yeah, you did say that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
The other numbers just floored me so much.
Yeah.
I forgot the first one.
Yeah. So what?
That is bad.
Once you're a great comparison to Jamarcus Russell, that's the end of the line as an NFL quarterback.
But Jamarcus Russell at least got enough years out of it to get a pension for crying out loud.
Yeah, well, he had a lot more talent, visible physical talent than Wilson has. Like, it was easy to see why you would try to make something out of Russell for a little while. See, like we were talking about Friday, Wilson shows you nothing. Like, there's nothing there to try to salvage. Russell always had that cannon. Like, there was something tantalizing about it. It was tragic.
Well, Wilson has an arm, but when you lose the confidence of your own team, you're done.
Yep. So anyway.
And I think just the matter that he was as flippant as he was when he insisted he was not part of the loss, despite the fact his defense kept him in a game he was terrible in. It's no news flash, but
nope.
It happened a number of times. I could see the rest of the team just saying, we're done with this guy. And I think that's harder to come back from than 4 interceptions in a game.
Mm.
Although Russell Wilson tried to do that yesterday.
He tried, but what
he
a
stopped at
mess.
3.
Oh
My God.
What a disaster.
This is a good time for teams like that because they can look at what they have. That team has nothing.
They got nothing.
Yeah, and guess who's not going to be drafting for the next few years either?
Denver.
At least drafting high, where they will continue to have nothing.
Yep.
And Seattle's like, yeah, we're a mediocre team. Thank you for the high first-round draft pick.
Oh, what a mess. You talk about a disastrous trade. I mean, that's going to go down unless Wilson has some kind of renaissance next year. That's going to go down as one of the absolute worst trades in NFL history. I mean, even if Seattle never becomes appreciably good from it, even if they just stay mediocre for the immediate few years, like Denver's going to be so bad. I mean, they're already horrible. And like you just said, they have no real means of getting significantly better.
Unless they overpay free agents.
Right. That's it.
Because I don't think that's going to be anyone's destination, especially an offensive player.
Right. Right.
Because you'd have to be married to that guy for the next 4 years.
Yep. That's it. The only thing I can say that might salvage them is Wilson was clearly very good in the right system. Finding a coach that can implement a similar system might actually fix this to an extent because coaching really made and broke Wilson's career. So it stands to reason that it could be done again in the other direction if you found the right fit. So that's the only sliver of light, but you're going to have to eat the contract of this coach you just hired and then get it right with the next one.
Considering that the person that would be doing this hiring hired
that's
the other guy.
Right. That's the problem.
I don't even want to say his name. I have such disdain for him.
Elway?
No, the coach.
Oh, Nate the Great.
Yeah. Great what?
The Great Bust. Nate the Great.
Don't insult Mr. Thurmond with that.
That's right. Nate Thurmond.
I have little doubt they'll get it right.
It's understandable.
Elway has shown me there's 2 things he hasn't done appreciably well. That's hire a coach and get a quarterback.
Yep, that's it.
And without those 2 things,
it's rough.
You're not going to be good.
No,
you can have the best defense in the world.
You have to have at least one of them. I mean, you could have a mediocre quarterback if you have a great defense, a good running game, and a great coach. Say, look at San Francisco, for example. You can make it work. But if you don't have a coach or a quarterback, you're done. You need one of the 2 at the absolute minimum.
I'm convinced more by the week that Purdy is not a mediocre quarterback.
Yeah, it's hard to tell with this team because, I'm
convinced that in that system, he's a quality NFL starter.
Well, that's just it.
He's not going to lose a game for. He's Garoppolo.
That's what I'm just saying. In that system, so in absolute terms, I think he is a mediocre quarterback, or maybe even less. But in relative,
you haven't
terms,
seen him in those other situations.
Right. Well, I'm applying the same thing I did to Russell Wilson, who I always thought, despite all the success he had, was a system quarterback and otherwise mediocre. And I've now proven right about that. Look, I'm happy he's playing good. Obviously, that's my favorite team, so great. But would I draft him if I had a choice of every quarterback in the NFL, or even if I had a choice of the bottom 20 starters? He would be near the bottom of that list for me if I was just drafting. Like, I would take Ryan Tannehill in a heartbeat over him, for example. I would take Baker Mayfield over him. I would. But, I think Kyle Shanahan's system is so good and so infallible that it makes everybody look pretty good. And I believe that if Kyle Shanahan was the coach of the Broncos, like we were just talking about, I think they'd be a playoff team this year. I do. I think he's a huge, huge upgrade and a huge asset. He's a great coach. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got the top 5 news you can use. Got some NHL stuff I'm sure to get to, and some baseball news. Carlos Correa Maybe?
Yeah, I have a little something on that.
Ooh.
I was hoping you wanted to go that way.
All right. Well, let's get to the top 5 next. 4-minute break. Back after this, the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. All righty, welcome back to the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave, cavetalkradio.com, and of course the Cave Talk Radio app. Hour 2, we still got the question of the day. Of course, we got more to talk about with the NBA, some NHL, Major League Baseball hot stove. But right now, top of hour 2 can only mean one thing. Jack George in the top 5.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time for King Talk Radio's Top 5.
All righty, what do we got today?
You know, when you hear his voice,
oh, it just gets you going.
It's one of those feelings. You know where you are. You know what time it is.
Let's do it. That's right.
Approximately. This is fun.
He was at my house yesterday for Christmas. We were having root beer floats.
Oh, nice.
Good stuff.
Okay. You know how I always have a little list of things I would make interesting top 5s, and that list just never gets used.
Yes.
Because of yesterday, I'm not doing what I said I was going to do. What is your all-time top 5 Christmas Day games? Obviously, the only sport that matters on Christmas Day, of course.
Yes. I mean, I remember one year, I think it was 2008 maybe, Kobe and LeBron played on Christmas. That was really good, which was more significant in retrospect because they never managed to play in the finals against each other. They just missed each other over the years, a couple of times, couple of near misses. So that was definitely one of them. I'll tell you, I remember, was it last year maybe? Memphis and Golden State, did they play last year too?
No, this was Memphis's first time.
It was, okay. It was. I remember, I think the Shaq Kobe Lakers, the last edition of them, played a Christmas Day game. I think it was against, it was either San Antonio or it might have been Dallas. But there's been so many over the years. It's just hard to they all kind of blend together. It's hard to separate any of them out. Certainly I enjoyed last night's game a lot. I've been appreciating even more than usual LeBron this year. I'm trying to consciously make a point to just get as many of his games in as I can, because I don't know how many more he's going to play, but I'll tell you what, he's got his fastball still. So, I mean, yesterday's game with him and Luka was awesome because Luka, this was his second Christmas game. But I think it's the first one he's played in because I think he was out because of health and safety protocols last year.
Yes.
So that was cool seeing the two of them go to toe-to-toe, and they did not disappoint. They both brought their A game. That's for damn sure. That was fun. And by the way, kudos to Hubie Brown. Guy's 89 years old, was calling a game yesterday.
Oh, I know.
Guy's going to be 90 calling NBA basketball. How cool is that?
Still good.
He's still very good, yes. Let's see. A couple others. I remember you know who used to have some battles back in the day? The Clippers and the when it was like the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, they used to be on Christmas a lot. And I remember watching one game. I'm trying to remember who they were playing. It might have been the Spurs. And that was always a fun matchup because it was sort of like the juxtaposition of styles. They were always fun matchups. And the Clippers with Chris Paul it was the first time the Clippers had been relevant in a long time and really, for the most part in my lifetime. And seeing them get to Christmas was like, it took a couple of years to believe it because it was like they were the laughing stock of the NBA for so long. It was like retraining my brain to associate the Clippers with competency. It took a couple of years. Because I had no prior experience of them being, forget good, even relevant.
Right.
So that was a big deal. What other ones did you have? Give me a couple.
An interesting one, 2011. Christmas Day 2011, after the Mavericks won the title.
Yes.
We almost lost that next season. And the season...
Yeah, because it was strike shortened, right?
Right. The season opened on Christmas Day. And it was interesting watching the Miami Heat having to watch Dallas unveil their championship banner. And it kind of told them that, hey, you never want this to happen again. Do everything.
Yep.
And LeBron did.
Yep.
He was the league MVP, finals MVP, his first champion, Olympic gold medal.
Yeah, he learned his lesson from that one.
And Miami won the game.
Yep.
Bulls and the Knicks in 94 was a great rivalry. But the Knicks couldn't beat them when it counted.
Mm-hmm.
Without Michael Jordan in the way, the Knicks finally beat them and got to the finals. The Bulls got the rematch on the next Christmas, and Pippen went for 36 and 15, and
Scottie Pippen was so good.
The Knicks kept it a game because they forced overtime. I remember Hubert Davis hitting the three-pointer, and then Pippen blocked the shot to win it. You were talking about the 08. Oh, no, you weren't. The 08 Lakers and Celtics.
Yeah, I was talking about 08. I couldn't remember the exact year, the year that the Heat and the Lakers played on Christmas. There was one.
Oh,
might have been.
Well, I thought about 08 with the Lakers and the Celtics.
Yep.
I mean, Celtics beat them to win the title the year before.
Yep.
And another great game. The Lakers won it on that day, beat the defending champions, and
went on to win the title that year and the ensuing year too. They won 2 in a row.
Yes, the Heat Lakers was another one. It was in 2010. The Knicks and Celtics in 1985. It was Patrick Ewing's rookie year. And the Celtics built up a 25-point lead. And the Knicks kept chipping away, and they sent it to overtime. They won it in double overtime, and the world got to see Ewing as a star.
Yeah, pretty amazing stuff. I mean, Patrick Ewing, I always say this. I don't know that there's been a player that got consistently more out of less than Ewing did with those Knicks. I mean, that was not a good roster. I mean, they had a couple of guys that were good. They had a bunch of guys that were like good, useful players, but there was not one guy on that team for pretty much most of Ewing's prime that you would ever look at and think, oh man, this guy is a great guy to win a title with as a second option. There was never that person. I mean, the closest he had to that was probably his rookie year that you're talking about with Bernard King. And then after that, Mark Jackson for a couple of years. And then that was kind of it. I mean, at the very end, he had Sprewell, but by that point, Ewing wasn't, he was pretty close to done. And really, that was what a waste of a star. I mean, he dragged a team that had no business winning all those games to championship competition through sheer force of will and determination for like 10 plus years. I mean,
kind of like Dirk winning in Dallas.
Yes, but Dirk at least had solid, good, skilled offensive veterans around him the year they won. I mean, Jason Kidd was at the very end of his years.
He was at the end. Yeah.
But he was still good. Sean Marion was still good at that point. Jason Terry was still like a pretty consistent offensive player at that point. Ewing never had any of that. I mean, I remember watching those 90s Knicks, and granted, it was a much lower scoring era than what we're in now. But even for the time, the Knicks were a brutal offensive team. I mean, Ewing would get you 25 to 35, you were wondering if the rest of the team could equal his production half the nights. I mean, like if Ewing scored 30, there was a good chance the rest of the team barely beat him in scoring. Like if the Knicks had to play a game where they had to score 100 points, it was over. Hell, most of the time, if they had to score over 90, you were like, I don't know. It's going to be close.
Okay, the other two games I had were the 84 Christmas Day, Knicks and Nets. They were the New Jersey Nets then. That was the day Bernard King got 60.
Oh, that's good.
And the Nets won.
That's good stuff.
And I don't know if they've played each other since or before that. And my number one was Lakers Heat in 2004. Shaq returning to LA after he left.
Oh yeah, that was a fun one. They tried to pretend that they didn't hate each other.
Yeah,
I remember that one. And the Lakers
Heat ended up winning in OT.
Lakers are pretty terrible that year. They had a couple of years before they got Gasol where they were pretty hard to watch. I mean, it was Kobe and nothing else.
So yeah, I have a pretty appreciable list.
Yeah, you sure do. It's a tough list to match. I mean, think about Christmas Day games to me is I don't really keep like a cumulative running list in my head. Like they're like kind of appreciate the moment type of games and then kind of move on.
Yeah,
like
I get that.
Because every year they're just so star-studded. You have the best of the best basically every year. Every important storyline, rivalry, star player, competitive team, everything's represented basically every year, depending what you want. I mean, that Dallas Lakers matchup is a perfect example. Dallas is mediocre. Lakers are worse than that, but they're two of the brightest stars in the NBA, and the Lakers are just a franchise that always matters, regardless of how good or bad they are. Right. There's a couple of those franchises, and the Lakers are one of them. And then you had, matchups of great teams. You look at Boston and Milwaukee for that. You had matchups of pretty good teams, traditional rivalry teams based on geography, Knicks and 76ers. And you had a good Western Conference matchup, of course, with Phoenix and Denver. And then you had the defending champions in action against, as you were saying earlier, a team that's becoming increasingly a rival team. So, I mean...
Oh, yeah, they don't like each other.
That's it. And you love it.
Those are the games I like to watch.
Absolutely. So it's tough for me to put a list together, but I'll tell you my favorite Christmas Day game of all time was that one you mentioned from 2004. That was just much anticipated because that Kobe Shaq rivalry had been such a dominant storyline for so many years.
Were they going to shake hands?
Right, yeah.
They're going to push each other. What was going to happen?
That was more of a wrestling style type of thing where the story is the build up, not the match itself. Like that was the game itself was a good game, but the intrigue for that game was everything leading up to it.
That's why that was number one on my list.
Yeah. That was
number
really good
two
one.
was the game where the Heat had to watch the championship banner go up and then just say, all right, let's get to work.
Yep. Yeah, that was good. And the thing about that was interesting is Dallas waited till Christmas to hoist that banner because typically
it was the first game because of the lockout.
Oh, right. That's right. Because typically they'll do that the first home game.
On Christmas
Day,
right.
Okay.
Which, if that wouldn't have happened, you could have scrapped the season as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Yeah.
You've got to open. The NBA cannot miss Christmas Day. This is their day.
It is. It absolutely is. Good stuff. All right, let's take a quick break. We're going to hit the question of the day next. And also I'm going to look at some overnight television numbers. I'm curious about those if I can pull them up regarding yesterday's games.
I hope you can because I'm very curious.
Yeah, we're going to see if I can find them during the break here. No promises, but I'm going to look. And we also have some MLB Hot Stove news you can use and a little NHL as well. It's the Gary Ayd Show. Back after this here on The Cave.
Want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on, you watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
All righty, it's time for the radio question of the day. Let's take a listen. I'll tell you what, I think I'm gonna find these numbers too. So, but I'm still looking. So let's get to our question of the day, and then we'll see about these numbers here for the NBA on Christmas yesterday.
Watching sports is part of a well-balanced wellness regimen. I am KO, back in 1 minute with your sports question of the day.
History buffs. This tale from Michael Olson's Tales from a Tin Can took place aboard the USS Dale during the opening moments 7 December 1941.
As we left our berth and got underway, the deck force was still engaged in getting ready for combat. Fuller had the job of clearing the deck of all the wooden objects that had collected in port, so Fuller was making his way aft, just tossing stuff like a madman, when he came to the ice cream freeze. Before he could toss it over the side, one of the guys said, "Hey, wait a minute." In a matter of seconds, the lock was broken and the ice cream distributed among the crew. So what you saw that morning was the USS Dale steaming hell-bent out to the channel while the guys back aft were standing by their guns, eating ice cream and watching World War II break out all around.
Tales from a Tin Can contains 424 tales by 44 sailors aboard the USS Dale, from Pearl Harbor to Tokyo Bay. Order your Father's Day copy at talesfromatincan.com. That's talesfromatincan.com.
Former Heisman Trophy winner Tim Tebow is well known for being committed to his health and wellness. Tebow's fitness routine goes way beyond hitting the gym. He invests in IV drip therapy, cryotherapy, compression therapy, infrared therapy, and tuning into a game or two. Tebow told Inside Hook, "I think people having teams to root for and a chance to escape the monotony of the day and cheer for their team is healthy. It doesn't even have to be your team." Question: do you or do you not tune into a game to tune out a bad day?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the great things about sports. It's why it's an essential thing. I mean, it's funny because I'm going to make an analogy to that time period. The ad leading into that question was a World War II thing. It actually sounds pretty interesting. During World War II, Franklin Roosevelt, who of course was the president at the time, was adamant that even though some of the main guys had to be called into action, he was adamant that baseball, which was the sport of the time, remain in action throughout the course of the war because it was essential to keeping morale strong and keeping some semblance of normalcy in a very decidedly not normal time. And that just shows you how important it is. It's absolutely that there's no better escape from reality than a sporting event. There's no question about it.
I agree completely. And it doesn't even have to be my team.
No.
In fact, sometimes I'm happier when it's not. Because if I've had a rotten day, a team of mine losing will compound that. But just watching another game, a well-played game between two teams, makes part of that day better.
Oh, it does.
I completely agree.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And, what's crazy is, like, when you think about how political sports coverage has become, not so much in-game coverage, but like the peripheral stuff, talk radio and whatnot, and how off topic so many hosts get on a consistent basis, it flies in the face of the logical reason to listen to sports talk radio or watch sporting events, which is to get away from stuff. And it's very, very important to have that sort of, for lack of a better term, safe space, right? Like that comfortable space where you're just, kind of in a zone for a couple hours. It's absolutely critical to a functioning, healthy society. I totally believe that.
It is. You have to have that balance. You do.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to sit here and pretend that sports is the only way to achieve that. It's not, but it's one of the best ways, because one thing that sports does that other forms of entertainment don't do to the same extent is it creates camaraderie. I mean, if you listen to any athlete who's ever retired in any sport in all of history, they'll almost all say the same exact thing when asked years later about what they missed the most. It's almost always the camaraderie and the locker room and that kingship. And part of that is transferred to the fan experience in that you create those types of kingships and bonds with perfect strangers over shared interests of players, teams, memories. And you don't do that to the same extent with movies or music. To a degree you do, but it's a little more personal and a little more intimate with sports. And I think that that's really, really critical. I really do.
I do too.
And it's interesting, but I'll tell one other thing about this as far as having a favorite team. I've never really the Lakers and Mets would be the two teams I have like really strong rooting interests in, and it does create friendships when you find people that share that. It does, even if you're nothing alike otherwise. It's an easy thing to go back to and talk about, and everyone gets excited about it or pissed off.
I have a couple of friends that are just friends because we're Clippers fans.
Yeah, right. That happens. Yep. That's exactly
it. And it's great.
Yeah, it's great.
For 8 months out of the year, we talk a lot.
That's right. Conversations are a little more interesting now than they were a few years ago. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, technically, no.
Yeah, that's true. They've been good for a while now.
We had a lot more to say in some years, but
no, I see Kawhi Leonard's out again.
It's just good to knee management, just taking a day. It's nothing long term.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I should probably start putting that in notes when it's just a something like that. Thank you for bringing that up.
But he's the key to that whole team. And the thing about the Clippers this year, not to get off on the tangent about them, but their offense has really not been. And I don't know if it's lack of offense or if they just play a very methodical pace. They're very, very methodical.
They do. Well, basically because they haven't played together all year.
Right.
Now that they've started to, it's picked up a little. But yeah, they're not going to set any offensive records.
No, that's for damn sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah,
but that's not how they're built to win anyway.
All right. Well, there you have it. That's the top 5. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We got the top 5 done. We got the question of the day done. We got some news you can use, and we got some NHL still to get to and baseball hot stove. So we'll do the NHL and the baseball hot stove next, and we'll close it out with news you can use. Back after this, the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
All righty. So Carlos Correa, not yet officially a Met. Nothing's ever easy.
No, it's not.
What's the latest you're hearing on this?
I don't see how the Nets can back out of this.
Oh, yeah. I don't think they will.
I really don't. They have issues with his physical. We probably shouldn't have been surprised. I mean, Correa agreed to the deal with the Giants.
Yep.
The Giants delayed his introduction due to his issues with his physical. The Mets came in, turned around, and agreed to the contract. Hey, we thought, okay, that's that. We're over. Oh, we were wrong.
Oh, we were wrong. Wasn't just us, though.
The issue concerns Correa's right lower leg, which he had surgically repaired in 2014. He was a minor leaguer for the Astros then. He's dealt with other injuries since. This one in particular hadn't been an issue because, of course, he hadn't signed a contract of that length at this time. Like with the Giants, the Mets have some of the same options: restructure, renegotiate, back out of the deal. Although I don't think it's going to be that straightforward. Steve Cohen has gone on record talking about Correa, even though the deal's not signed. Now Correa has a medical issue 2 teams have flagged. And of course, you got Correa's agent. Scott Boras is not a fan of renegotiating.
No.
He just doesn't do it. This has gone on a lot longer than anyone's expected, and I don't think it's going to be done anytime soon.
Well, the last thing I read was that from John Heyman, which said that they took a brief break over the holiday, but that the sides would be resuming renegotiations, and that a deal still seemed likely. So that was Heyman's take. So we'll see.
I didn't think that they would. I didn't think the news would be any other. I think they are going to go through with it, but I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know. Like I said, I was hoping you had some newer insight, being a little closer to the situation.
Yeah, well, what I hear is basically that the deal is still likely to happen, but no details around when or in what form. But Heyman's been pretty much the closest guy to this from the beginning. He had an exclusive interview with Cohen in the wake of the initial reporting of the contract. And he was on the front lines of it when it was breaking down with the Giants. So Heyman's been pretty on top of this. So I'm pretty much following him on this particular story. He seems to really be on top of it.
And I have another question for you.
What's that?
Does this make it more difficult to get insurance on the contract?
Probably. I'm sure it makes it more expensive. If nothing else. I would imagine that, everything has its price. I'm sure you can get the insurance. It just might cost more, but yeah, I would think it would have to, right? I mean, like that's how insurance premiums work. The more risk that's perceived, the more expensive it is.
Very true.
So because of course that's what you're really buying is you're buying risk mitigation when you buy any type of insurance. That's all insurance really is when you get down to it.
I'm just curious as to how much it's a factor because they have to have the contract insured.
Yeah, I mean,
no doubt about it.
Yeah, no question about it. What I'm curious is how I'm surprised at the lack of excitement from a big chunk of the Met fan base over this signing. There's so many that were saying, it's too much. It's over the top. We should see what the kids are. How can the kids play? Like, guys, this isn't the Wilpons anymore. We're not in Kansas anymore. This is the big time now. We have a big time owner. We always were in New York, believe it or not. I know it's felt like Oakland for 20 years, but believe it or not, it's always been New York. And now we have an owner to match our market.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people, Met fans, that are almost celebrating this. Like they're hoping he doesn't sign. Like, how could you not want one of the best players in baseball on your team? I understand you're concerned about the injury, and you have every right to be. But there's two things here. One, it's baseball. So no matter how great a player, their individual impact on team outcome is only so great. See Jacob deGrom, see Mike Trout, see Shohei Ohtani. There's a billion examples of this. And then the second piece is, like, it's baseball, and prospects usually don't pan out. Let's not be so excited about, well, let's see what the kids can do. No, I don't want to see the kids. No, the kids are for Oakland. The kids are for when you can't get a top 10 player. No, give me Carlos Correa. And if he's hurt, it's not Kawhi Leonard. It's not a situation where if the guy's out, your season's over. It's not Anthony Davis. If you are without Carlos Correa, even if he becomes Jacoby Ellsbury, worst case scenario, you sign him to 5 years, 8 years, whatever the contract ends up being, and he never plays, hardly ever plays, your chances of being good aren't diminished all that much because of the nature of baseball and the depth of this team. Whereas, if this was another sport, look, if this was basketball and we were offering this contract to one of those two guys I just mentioned, Kawhi or Anthony Davis, I would more understand this line of thinking because there is a salary cap of some nature. I know there's a lot of loopholes in it, but there is a salary cap. You can only have so much room on your roster for max guys like that. And when you lose a guy like that, it tanks your season because it has to. So I would understand this line of thinking from Met fans in a different sport. In baseball, there's no salary cap. You have an owner who doesn't care what he spends. And one great player, if they play or not, doesn't change your season in most cases. So, I don't really understand that line of thinking. And who are we wanting to see? Brett Beatty? Bring him back up, play him in left field. I like Beatty too. Alvarez? Well, our catchers aren't that good. Play him. Who else do you want to see? Carlos Correa is not preventing me from seeing the two minor leaguers I want to see some. He's not.
Right.
Beatty's going to play a different position. Throw him in left field.
And you also want to win now.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
I mean, especially, it's not Kansas City. It's New York.
Right. That's right. It
you
absolutely
have to win now.
So I'm rooting for this deal to go through all the way. But there's a lot of people that aren't. And I'm very surprised and almost disappointed in that, to be honest with you. Because
I think, and some of this is human nature. When you've been let down that many times before, some people will take the approach, and I'm not saying I agree with it, because I wouldn't, especially in baseball, because like you said, the lack of that salary cap. Some people will take the approach that, better not to be hurt again.
Yeah.
Let's just back off. No.
Yeah, let's just lose in peace. That kind of mentality. Like,
Yeah,
no.
bring on the pain, and I'll take the potential win.
Yeah, let's try to get some World Series championships. Let's make the playoffs. Let's do some damage. Right. Like, I mean, you didn't bring in Justin Verlander at 40 years old, pay Max Scherzer last offseason at 36, 37, 38 years old. You didn't bring in all these guys and pay them these contracts to be mediocre or look to the future. And let's see what the kids know. This isn't like a let's see what the kids are doing roster. This is a let's go out and win a World Series or come damn close to doing it type of roster.
And I figure you've got, with the roster, you have a 3-year window anyway.
Yeah. So let's go make it happen.
So let's go try to do something in these 3 years.
Absolutely.
If Correa doesn't play after that, you move on.
Right. Right. And it's not like this guy, like, that's the thing about Carlos Correa. He's what, 28? I mean, he's not that old. So, like, let's
and remember, this injury first was diagnosed and treated 8 years ago.
8 years ago. Right.
It does concern me that it keeps showing up. So I'm wondering, was he not taken care of properly?
Yeah. Yeah, it is weird. And with the Mets' history with injury management, I certainly understand the concern there. You know how I feel about Mets doctors.
I see both sides, but the bottom line is, hey, it's not my money.
No, well, and that's the $1 million. That's the ultimate answer. You're 100% right, because there's no salary cap, there should be no, oh, that's too much money. If there's no salary cap and the owner doesn't think it's too much money,
right,
then there's no such thing.
Money.
It's his money, and there's nothing in the structure of the financial systems of the sport that prevent you from just outspending your mistakes. Carlos Correa could sign the exact contract that was reported a few days ago, never play a game for the Mets ever, be fully guaranteed, and Steve Cohen would be like, "Oh, that sucked. Who's available now? Oh, Rio Muto's available. Let's go pay him $300." He doesn't care.
Yeah.
And there's no cap to prevent him from doing that. So, like, there's no such thing as too much money for anyone. Not when you have an owner that has an unlimited budget.
And that's the whole thing with him. I don't think he'll get the yips if it doesn't work.
Oh, no way he'll get the yips. He'll be like, oh, shit. Well, let's get the next guy.
A lot of owners will.
Right. And that's where that sentiment from the fan base comes from. They're conditioned to think that. But, like, they
have Wilponitis.
Yeah, the Wilponitis. Right. That's right.
An inflammation of the Wilpon.
Right. And even the Steinbrenners are somewhat reluctant in certain situations now. Like, this guy's not. He doesn't care about the money. And maybe more importantly, he doesn't care that the other owners are mad at him for wielding his financial stick. Like, oh, come on. You guys are all billionaires too. Yeah, he's got more money than you, but, like,
if you had the same cojones he did, you'd be doing the
same
thing.
You can do the same thing.
It's not about the money.
No. I mean,
and don't make it about the money.
Oakland's owner, if he really wanted to, could go sign anyone he wanted. If he really wanted to. But he won't do that because he's comfortable cashing his $200 million a year revenue sharing check and just, you know,
that covers more than his payroll.
And crying poor and complaining about blah blah blah. Like, that's just, he's happy to be in that lane. Steve Cohen's, you know, he's creating a new subway. He's burrowing his own tunnel here. He's playing it by his own rules, and it's his money, and well, he can do what he wants. And he is.
Back to the A's.
Yes.
If they move to Oakland without selling, it's going to be a disaster.
Oh,
that stuff will not fly in Vegas.
No. It's true. Yeah, you would think that move would maybe, even if they don't sell, force that ownership group to be a little bit more aggressive, just for the point you're talking about, Rich, just like reflect the market. I mean, you would have to.
I don't know if they will, though. That's ingrained in
it. Is.
Old habits die hard, man, and that's an old habit.
Yeah, it definitely is. Anything to get updated on the NHL real quick?
They're in their break.
Okay.
In their Christmas break, the World Juniors start today. It's the best players around the world under 20, playing for not only their respective countries, and it is a big deal in a lot of them, but also playing for potential draft status for the younger ones. And again, there's some European teams that are loaded, but most eyes are going to be on the Canada-US game. There are no games tonight. The season picks back up tomorrow. When we left you the last night, Alexander Ovechkin scored 2 goals, 8:01 and 8:02 in their win over the Winnipeg Jets. He passed Gordie Howe for second place in about 300 less games than Howe did. The next mark is Gretzky at 894, and he's not slowing down. I see no reason why he will not break it, barring any catastrophic injury.
Right. He's been the model of durability throughout his career, too.
He has, and he plays such a physical game, too, which amazes me. And he's what, that age with 22 goals already. He's not slowing down a bit.
Yeah, there's certain guys that just have a preternatural talent, and he's one of them. I mean, him and Jaromir Jagr, to me, those two guys were like, outside of Gretzky himself, the most natural goal scorers I've ever seen. They were just so good at it.
And Jagr, I don't know if we did this on the air last week because we were off, but the team he owns back home is injury riddled. So at 50, he had to suit up, and he got a couple of assists. At 50 years old, he played 16 minutes.
God.
And looked really good doing it.
He was probably like, come on, kids. Trying to retire here.
Because he played up until a few years ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember that.
And he still can play.
It's amazing.
He's like 51, and he can still play.
Yeah, he was something else. All right, well, there you go. So that's your NHL stuff. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up with news you can use. Last couple minutes of the Gary Ayd Show coming up here on The Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on, you watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
All righty. Last few minutes of the Gary Ayd Show. Time for some news you can use.
An interesting interview with Baker Mayfield talking about having this chance again and what in just a few short weeks he's been there that he's picked up from spending so much time in the McVay lab. He said he's the most detailed person he's ever been around. He says, talking about when a play looks good in practice, he has to have the what if and take it apart and fine tune it until it looks right. And if we get this look, what do we want to teach? How do we want to approach it? He says it's special to watch how detailed he is and just getting to know him and how he wants the players in good positions. And I think that was a pretty good signing for them because I think he can be a quality backup there to Stafford.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you wonder if he's going to want to try to go somewhere where he might have a better chance to start. But as a backup, he might be the best backup in the NFL. And Stafford's a guy that even in his younger years misses a few games a year most years. So it's good to have a good backup with a guy like that.
Right.
In
And
fact,
of course, he does want to start. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you could make the argument with how Mayfield has looked in this handful of games since being with the Rams. I think you can make a pretty good argument that had he been there all season when Stafford was injured and or ineffective because of injury, the Rams might be in a different position this year. They might be competing for the playoffs had Baker been there all along. I think that's a reasonable thing you could say because a lot of the problems for the Rams this year have been just ineffectiveness in their passing game because of Stafford's injuries. It's been a big part of their struggles.
Agreed.
You know, I think if Baker was there all along, they might have been in the playoff situation. I really do.
And he gets a few more weeks to learn from this,
Yep.
from this guy. And I hope they do keep him. For if he wants to show he could still be a starter, he has this opportunity, but having another year might help him.
Yep.
And Dad also told me all I need to know about the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, there's not
If
much
in
going on
2
there.
weeks this kid can tell the difference in what they had,
Yep.
in what they have, and what he's picked up and learned, that just goes to show you
Cleveland good at Cleveland.
that there was never any intent to make this kid get better.
Yep. Cleveland gonna Cleveland.
Yeah. And they have.
All right. What
and
else do
they
we got?
will. Here's a direct quote from Bengals corner Eli Apple.
Okay.
Of course I noticed it. He tripped me. I thought it was a dirty play. He's done that kind of thing before. Question, who's he talking about if you haven't seen the story? It's Mac Jones. And is he developing the reputation for being a dirty player? Because he is not. This is not the first player that's spoken out about
So
this.
he's talking about Mac Jones, the quarterback, the Patriots quarterback.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to defend Jones here a little bit. Even if
Really?
Yeah, because
did you see the play? I thought it's at least fine worthy. It was incredibly dirty.
Even if it was, when a quarterback becomes a defensive player and they're the last line of defense and they're quarterbacks and they're not defensive guys, like to me, you get the guy to the ground by hook or by crook and you deal with those type of things later in those situations. The only time a quarterback is hitting a defensive back is when they just had a turnover. So, and usually the quarterback's the last line of defense. So I don't care. Like, I really don't. I would care more the reverse here. If a defensive player was like for example, Ndamukong Suh, he has a reputation as a dirty player, well-earned reputation, and I have a bigger problem with that because that's what you do when you're a quarterback making a tackle. I don't care how dirty it is.
I do.
I don't.
The guy didn't have the ball. He was not making a tackle. If you saw it, he dove for his knees, and there's. Somebody has a compilation video, an NFL writer, Dov Kleiman, who I like. and he has a compilation video from 4 different incidents. This is a 1.5 year career, and part of it he didn't play. It's telling, and yeah, I think it deserves at least a fine, if not a 1-game suspension.
Yeah, I don't care if they punish him. That's fine. If they deem it as punishment worthy, that's fine.
It was incredibly dirty.
But
it was not just, I want to get this guy out of the way, because the play was far away from him.
Yeah.
The guy was already past the guy who actually had the turnover. He just
I mean, I
dove at the knees to take it.
and I'm not going to
It's
speak.
unacceptable.
I'm not going to speak to this particular play because I didn't see it. But I will say I don't really care if quarterbacks make dirty plays as defensive players because they're not defensive players.
I care if anyone does. It's unnecessary.
It doesn't. Yeah, that doesn't really matter to me in those exact situations.
And I respect no one who plays like that. Speaking of the Bengals, right tackle Lyle Collins is out for the season with a torn ACL and MCL.
Ouchies.
That's rough.
Yeah, that's rough. It's a lot of pain too.
Yeah, and that is not the best thing for them. That's not a great offensive line as it is.
No, that's going to hurt them a
Burrow
lot.
does get hurt a lot. And that's a showdown game next week.
Oh,
in the Natty against the Bills.
Oh, it sure is. Big playoff implications and maybe a AFC championship type of preview potentially.
And a possible home field is always on the line.
There's that too. Yep.
Bills and Chiefs are still tied.
I'll tell you what, I would think every team in the AFC hunt, Kansas City, of course, Cincinnati, because they're the ones playing them, but I would think any team in the AFC hunt for home playoffs is rooting against Buffalo to get it because no one wants to go to Buffalo in January.
Right. Right. Not that Cincinnati's any picnic.
No, that's true. Kansas City would be not even great either, actually. All 3 of them are pretty much cold weather cities.
Yeah, but there's cold and
then there's Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, one more.
One more. The Knicks have talked internally about reaching out to the Sixers for Tobias Harris. Come on, Knicks, make this happen.
What would you trade to get him? Like, because I like that move for the Knicks too.
I'd trade a number 1 if they don't want a guard back. And why would they?
Right.
Why would they with the way Milton's playing and when Maxey comes back?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a great position of need.
Would you trade Obi Toppin if that's what they asked for?
I'd probably want to see if they'd take Cam Reddish and something else.
Yeah. Maybe Cam Reddish and a draft pick.
I think they need Reddish more than Toppin.
Yeah, I agree. And the Knicks don't use him that much. So yeah, I think that would be interesting. Alrighty. Well, there you go.
And congrats to Dirk Nowitzki, that statue unveiling.
That was awesome.
They didn't show us enough of it. It was very cool.
I agree. All right. Well, that does it for us. We'll see you next time. The Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.